This is the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast, with Erolai, Kreese, and Mark, bringing you all your DFFOO news and talk. Welcome to Season 4, the LGBT era. Now let's start the show.
Welcome everyone to episode 135 or 36, of the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast. I am Mark, and I have the pleasure of being one of your hosts. Now I am joined by my host, co-host. You know her and love her. Her name is Erole. Ero, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I've been sprucing up the house again, but this week it's been really coming together for me.
Very good. And we do not have Kreese with us. Kreese is okay, but is taking the week off. It's been busy. They're back to school, doing all kinds of different things, of course. Back to uni, I suppose. And so we have a special guest who is very, very excited about a certain featured character this week, and that is Drusain. Drew, how are you doing today?
Doing very well, Mark. A little less confident about this character compared to Porum. I was very, very excited to talk about Porum. Exdeath, I have a lot to say about, but I did a write-up in some time. It was somewhat well received, but some it was not. But I feel I'll be able to pull this off pretty well. And besides, it's fun.
Yes, and a special thanks to Papa Paleo and Shalaster for gifting, and all of you, many, many people sub to the channel. Remember, if you want to support the Crystal Chronicles, really the only way to do that is to subscribe on Twitch. Obviously, your likes and subs and shares on YouTube, the podcast, all of that helps. And just being a part of the community, joining us live, all of that helps. I'm so appreciative, to have everybody just show up and hang out with us. That makes it so much better. But a special thank you to the both of them for gifting 10 subs each, 10 gift subs. Shalaster has claimed a Titus play arts figure, and so Poppy, if you're interested in a lightning play arts figure or a mannequin, you can message me and I can show you what those look like. So we'll talk later, but just thank you all. And remember, if you are subbed or if you received a gift sub, link your Discord and Twitch accounts, and we have a special sub channel on our Discord. So thank you. It's always fun. We started a little late tonight, and to have the pre-show kind of go like that is always a lot of fun. Now, just talking about our Discord, our TCC intern, PoteauCedar, is hosting the GL First contest, and that's going to close this weekend before, I think it's going to close on Saturday before the Squex mobile stream on Monday. And so the contest is just a chance for you to kind of pick who you think the GL First LD is going to be, which will be announced on Monday, we believe. You get to pick 3 different options in the Discord contents link, and all those who pick the right answer will enter into a drawing, give out a couple prizes, and have fun with that. So everybody can do that. Pick 3. You just check the emote check mark under the name of the character you think will be the GL First, and if you are in there, we'll kind of do a little drawing just to have fun. Some news. If you like your Exdeath, but you want him a little bluer, a little more tree-like, there is a costume exclusive for you. So you can pick that up. Drew, I know you're a big Exdeath fan. Do you like this costume? Not like it? What's your opinion about it?
I actually have not played FF5 yet. It's on the docket because I get the impression it's really fun. And every single DFFOO character in or FF5 related seems to be incredibly fun to play. So I'll get there. But as far as the costume, I don't really have much to say to him. I don't buy costumes, but it looks pretty nice. I think I think the dark blue is much more it looks a lot better than the light blue. But I don't know. I don't know the character that much.
Yeah, I didn't look at I have the art books behind me, of course. I have all the Amano art, which most of these are taken from. But I have not been buying. I don't remember. Maybe Gladio's the last time I bought a costume, so I've not been buying the costumes. I know Arrow didn't buy this costume, but you did buy the Furion costume, right?
I totally bought the Furion costume ASAP. Like I even bought it before I pulled Furion LD.
And I know a lot of people like that costume.
I actually like that costume in retrospect because I hadn't looked at it, but I guess I don't want to wander too much in it, but it reminds me of a character from Suikoden 5. The main character who looks like the main character from Suikoden 5, who has a costume that looks really similar. It's weird, but so I appreciate that.
So I do want to point something about this costume. It seems to be a Dissidia based costume, and I think that's kind of unique. So I guess this is not an Amano designed art. I looked around in the Ultimania because I also have it, but I didn't see it in there. I don't remember seeing it in there. And also, I just love the tree skirt. That kills me. I love that it has the texture of his final boss form. That's a really nice little touch to the outfit.
Yeah, some of our costumes are based on the Amano art. Some of them are based on various different other versions of the game's sprites. Some of them are based on various different skins in the actual Dissidia franchise. So they do come from various different places. Some of them they are just made up. No, I don't know that there's any exclusive costumes to our content. Yeah. So there is another. So you can get the Furion costume, you can get the Exdeath costume, and if you've missed out Kane, I was going to say Kane Piccolo, as opposed to King Piccolo. I just ruined the punchline to that joke. Yes, if you want Kane's King Piccolo costume, that is available to you as well. Literally, if you're not familiar with Final Fantasy IV, the After Years, it is just Dragon Ball Z. That's all you need to know. If you like Dragon Ball Z, maybe you would like to play Final Fantasy IV, the After Years. Hobo Kane. Look at it. It is the same costume Piccolo wears in Dragon Ball Z. So in the early episodes of Dragon Ball Z. So and Kane has that role in the After Years of being the mentor to the child whose father is kind of a dick, which is Cecil. So and we'll talk more about that when Theodore comes out. More Final Fantasy.
There's one more costume actually that's come back, and I know it's a surprise, but Warrior of Light's costume got another reprint. I know it hasn't been long, guys, but if you for some reason just joined recently, or you just couldn't afford to get it that last time, it's awesome that you got another chance so soon. It is still to this day probably one of the best costumes in the game.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite costumes. I love that costume, the Warrior of Light, actual just warrior costume. It's really nice. All right, well, enough costume talk. There is a 3rd anniversary countdown campaign. Every day you've been logging in, you've been getting extra goodies, including nuggets and power tokens and potential other things down the line. But a lot of nuggets. I think 60 of each type of nugget.
40.
40 of each type.
Yep.
So, but still, that's a lot.
It is a lot just for logging in and showing up.
But yeah, make sure you log in every day and get those countdown to the 3rd anniversary. Some people on the internet, I won't say which venue, but you can assume, we're like, this is all we're getting for 3rd anniversary? No, friends. This is the countdown to 3rd anniversary. So this is like buttering. Yeah, this is the hype train. This is buttering you up for the real surprise, the real goodies. Who knows? Maybe we'll have cats and mice on this Squex community stream. Maybe we'll get Auto Plus. Oh, Lord help us if we do. That would be great if we got the Auto Plus quality of life. But we'll talk more about that later on in the show. So let's move to the actual events, and that was Exdeath's Lost Chapter, Tree for the Void. Of course, Exdeath proselytizing the virtue of the void very eloquently in this Lost Chapter. If you didn't understand what I said, that's okay. But he does have religious fervor, and I respect that, for converting people towards understanding the majesty and the glory of the void. And so let's talk a little bit about Exdeath. Exdeath is, just to give you a brief overview if you're not familiar with the character, because you may have passed him by and never even used him before, maybe you're new to the game. Exdeath is a unique character among all DFFOO damage dealers in that he does true damage, or his damage is based on his stats and not tied to any type, melee, ranged, or magic. He reduces enemy brave, but will never break an opponent. He has a myriad of debuffs, and his EX gives him 1 turn of damage mitigation against the enemies. He also is able to do off-turn damage with sap and HP poison. He did receive a level 80 and an LD this time around. No rework because he was one of the later EX characters. Just a brief overview, and then Drusain has been using Exdeath a lot, and Arrow will have some insights as well. Exdeath's level 80 call ability is his skill 2, which is an AoE attack that debuffs the enemies with Curse, which is attack, defense, speed down, and HP poison, and Bud of Darkness, which is the sap effect. So you bring him in, does the AoE attack, damage, and then puts those 2 buffs on the party. Not a terrible call ability. We are kind of at the end of the regular calls going into LD calls, though. His LD is called Maelstrom. There gives him the Maelstrom skill ability, reduces enemy braves to 0. So it doesn't do brave damage. It does reduce their brave to 0. Gives you a free ability the next turn, and then grants the new debuff Dissipating Darkness, which is an additional attack down and additional poison, HP poison. So with all of his debuffs active, considerable attack down and considerable HP poison and sap. So really cool. I pulled for him. I had him before. I had his EX. I pulled his LD. I like his niche. I like his uniqueness. I think his voice lines are hilarious, and his voice acting is just phenomenally ridiculous. He's always been such an over the top. I mean, as ridiculous as Kefka is as a character, Exdeath is always portrayed, I think, much more just over the top and ridiculous. And it really worked in Final Fantasy V, especially with Greg being so ridiculous as well. So the whole thing is just kind of fun for me. So I've enjoyed using him. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of his kit. Arrow, do you have anything to talk about first, and then we can jump to Drew and his analysis?
I mean, right now it's Excess Kit's cool. It's very unique, but I'm just not sure how many characters are going to pair extremely well with him currently, and that's where I think he will struggle more than he did in his EX Plus iteration, at least till he gets the burst. And yeah, we know about that from the JP side recently, about how good that is. So I don't have too much to say. I think if you like this kind of style, you want to try something extremely different from any other character in the game, this is somebody you can have a lot of fun with. But outside that, I don't have too many opinions. I think the kit's fine. It's just nothing that I'm particularly interested in. Drusain?
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. There is one thing about the LD that you did neglect to mention. Actually, I forgot when I did that write-up. I actually didn't even notice until I saw it in the Tonberry's infographic, because normally the stuff after, the stuff below the actual attack, you don't really look at, because it's always just stats, the extra usage, etc. But no, actually, Exdeath also gets 30% self overflow, and that is important to the kit. And I'll tell you a little bit about why overflow is so fucking goddamn important to this character. So first, I want to talk about just how Exdeath feels, because I've never played a DFFOO character that feels quite as weighty and heavy as Exdeath. Not just because he looks that way, but because every time he does a skill or a usage, it feels like a major shift in battlefield control. And I think that's not I don't think that's no accident. That's the way that they kind of forced him to be. And it's also really fun to have a little bit of a feeling of sadism whenever it's not Exdeath's turn, but it's the enemy's turn, and you're just seeing the HP poison tick down, and it's just like he's literally just draining HP. You've only got so many turns left until you're dead. It feels really good, and it really gives him a lot of presence. He feels really, really strong to play. But one of the major factors that he fell off with when he debuted was that he capped Brave really early. He came right before boards, and it's been a long time since we've thought about character boards, because everyone has them now, but except for a few people left. Exdeath would battery like 150,000 battery, ridiculous amounts of battery, on his Almagest, and then he would use Almagest and do like maybe 40k for each character, and that's because there's no overflow aura, and his max brave was 40k at the time. So what was important to him when I was playing him was to pair him up with characters who could boost his overflow. But that worked out really well with him. But with the boards and with the LD, you don't need that much because you're getting 20% overflow from his character boards, and you're getting 30% from the LD, 50 just because of that. He's also getting a little bit of extra, I was about to say damage, more like potency, I guess, on his debuffs. Instead of 10, it's going to be 20 attack. Instead of 10, it's going to be 30 defense. So that's really nice. So even without the rework, he's getting a lot of stuff that he really, really goddamn needed from the LD. And so one of the things about actually playing him before the LD as well was that if you played Exdeath before the LD, managing that curse debuff was hell, because you have 5 uses of it and you have to go through the entire stage with that debuff up. You can't really justify not having that debuff up. So you had 5 uses of it, and that's why Exdeath having an extra skill use on the LD is really, really nice, because now you can actually spam, because otherwise you can't. You either had your S1 and you had your HP attack, and you couldn't really rely on your EX either, because the EX takes a while to charge up. So you get the LD. LD is really good for the reasons that Mark said. You have 50% overflow just for sitting there. You do get that 50% down attack debuff. That's good, but it has a little bit of a problem with duration. It's kind of the same problem I have with Furion's debuff, and I have been labbing this. I put crap on my YouTube page, just labbing Exdeath and other stages. I wouldn't recommend it because my channel sucks, but it showed that when I played Exdeath before, you had 5 uses of Almagest, and that debuff ran for 8 turns. So you had 50 uses of it, 40 uses of it. The LD debuff runs out in 24, so you can't have full uptime on it. Well, we'll get to the stages, but there's a reason why the stages have a really low turn time, and that's because they need to kind of not show off the point that Furions and Exdeath's debuffs don't last very long. They last enough for the stages that they're in, for the boss rush, and for Exdeath's Lost Chapter, but afterward, you're going to run out. You are going to run out really badly. So that's one of the big complaints that I have with Exdeath on his LD. But he also releases at a weird time. I would venture to say that this era is very, very much about pulling characters that boost Stolen Brave through weakness, or through elemental modifiers, or through crit boosts, or through burst auras that boost all of that shit. That's not anything that Exdeath can take advantage of. The only LD character right now that can provide Gain Brave Overflow is Ami with Detelian, and you can't really bring them together because of the debuff cap. But Ramza will. I would say that Ramza would be pretty good for him. There's not a lot of videos with Ramza and Exdeath running together, but Rams has everything that he needs. He needs Gain Brave Overflow Aura, he needs attack up, and he needs battery, because there's a lot of extra damage you're getting out of Exdeath if you have him capped as much as you can when you hit. But like, I'd even give an example of why he's kind of a weird pick right now. And I want to talk a little bit about Desh, because Desh is an exceptional support that's been working on for a while, and a lot of it is because he provides weakness damage with his LD, and he also has the elemental crap going for you. So like, he's really, really good at getting damage on people, but Exdeath can't take advantage of it. So it's kind of a troublesome situation. But he has what he has. He'll be okay for a while. There's going to be, we'll get to there eventually, not with me, but on the podcast, there's going to be the Gain Brave reduction. There is something I would like to say about that, because Quetz actually corrected me on something that I didn't really realize. When you use an attack with Exdeath, there's going to be Brave reduction in the future, so that when he does, his black hole and he does a cleave, he's not going to be battering as much, but the damage, or the shave damage, is actually going to be the same. So that does help a little bit.
Yeah, but
he's still a little rough to use. So that's as much as I really wanted to do without adding more discussion. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about Exdeath that way. So that's as much as if you wanted to have more questions.
Thank you, Drew. And Drew did do a wonderful write-up on Reddit, so you can find that and get a whole bunch of more information on there. And Quetz did add that as a comment as well. Quetzalma, our good friend and Materia co-founder, with Steve and Quetz. No, I just Quetzalma. But yeah, Exdeath, again, we're in this weird era. We're at the end of the pre-LD board era. And it's not really, it's not as big of a jump in terms of EX to LD, or, but it's kind of like characters who didn't have character boards, now they have character boards. And so now we're getting that. But I think it's probably even a little bit more than that, because the LD calls are significant in terms of their power compared to a regular call. But so he kind of falls on the end of that. But thankfully, he does come back fairly quick with his burst and LD boards. And his burst animation is amazing. And his burst effect may be my favorite burst effect in the game to this point. So
It's really good. It had a lot of stuff that I expected, but we're global podcast, so I won't talk much about it. I think that people are looking at that stage and thinking that he can do stuff that he can't. But like, all I'm just gonna say is, yeah, deciding to spam forever is gonna kill you on 90% of loofs. So don't look at that and think that that's something you can do all the time.
Oh, but I will. I will run Ignis and Exdeath together forever. No, probably not. But I will enjoy it when I do it for that one mission. That's for sure. But yeah, so I mean, if it's a character you're interested in, you like his effect, it's going to be something to do it. Somebody was asking about artifacts. Drew, you can say that, but I think Attack 108 C50 is the ideal pairing for best in art artifacts.
That's correct. The only other one that makes any sense would just be the normal 108 and 330.
Yep.
If you needed to get the max brave up and didn't need the extra attack. Otherwise, yeah, those are the only two that make any sense at all.
It's hard for me to believe that no one has made any comments about spheres in the chat with 91 people watching us at the moment. So I won't talk about spheres. Obviously, he likes attack up spheres. But he does have the debuff armor as well. So if you're not familiar with the Lufania armor that does debuffs, it gives all enemies defense down 20%, and then all enemies eye brave, max brave, and attack down 10%. So that increases his debuff capacity across the board. So, I mean, if you do want to use Exdeath regularly, I think the debuff armor is a good armor to invest in. Thank you, C-Sam. Yes. Irving's Sphere is excellent on Exdeath. if you
Never let it go, man.
Ranged attack.
I want to
on that end, he is affected by magic boosts. So you could actually use the 15% sphere that boosts magic attack if you really wanted to. Otherwise, you have the refined sphere, which does 6% magic attack. So that's good for him.
I want to also cut in and remind everybody about the debuff armor. It does stack. So if you have another character with debuff armor, yes, the debuff aura will stack.
Yeah. Thank you, Seth. I appreciate that.
As long as the only problem is running out of debuff slots, so it's rough sometimes.
Well, it's an aura for the debuff armor at least, and there are a couple of characters that will maybe work very well with Exdeath. So that's just some things to think about.
Absolutely.
You wait, Summon Biscuits, when he gets his BT boards and he does range damage. Just you wait. I'll be laughing. No, I already removed the sphere. Oh, well, let's look at the podcast polls to see how few of you polled on Exdeath. I bet it wasn't a lot of you. So again, thanks to Quetzalma of MateriaBot fame for the podcast polls, which is across currently 9 servers. No one was willing to pity Furion's BT on this. 21 people, brave people across 9 servers, were willing to pity his LD. 7 of them were on our server, so interesting. 14 using gems and 111 tickets, so actually more than I would have thought. 93 skips using resources on Exdeath. Or maybe just trying to get Furion's BT as well. So, but yeah, he's interesting, and a lot of characters do some similar things. He does a lot of different things. So I think moving on from that to, if I get my outline here, I got a couple more things that I'm used to. The challenge quest, of course, Lost Chapters are some of the most limited challenge quests. Furion, Exdeath, and who else was on this available?
I used Exdeath, Furion, Wall,
Warrior of Light.
Yes.
Oh, and Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh, yeah.
Yeah, so 2 burst options. Actually a really good team. I used that team throughout all of the content. Exdeath, Furion, and Warrior of Light. I did not have either of their burst weapons at that time, and so that team actually does decent synergy. It's not the most ideal synergy, but for that content, it did fine. So there are some options, good characters. We're getting to the point where chaos is easier content, so challenge quests are a little easier. and we have more characters who are better. So it's not like we're bringing, characters that don't have EX realizations to chaos CQs. We're bringing good characters to CQs, and that's going to continue to be the case moving forward. But if you do have any problems, you can jump on our Discord. Not a problem with that. The Lufania fight, on the other hand, let me give you a little brief overview of the Tree for the Void Lufania. Again, that's the last node, the 200 level node of the Lost Chapter. Thankfully, this is permanent content, so if you're struggling with it, you do have some time to do it. It is 2 dweller types, which are Astaroth type flying angel-looking things. The Lufania orb begins at 80% of their HP and does not disappear. HP poison or enemy on the damage on the enemy's turn increases the orb count. You can bypass, I believe, I did not do this, but you can, I believe, bypass the Lufania orb if the enemies are paralyzed before they go from 80 to 79. Is that correct? Can someone, I was going to confirm it before the show, but I had a meeting.
I believe it's that, and then never give them a turn. I believe.
Yeah, you have to do both.
Okay, so if they're paralyzed or denied turns, deleted turns before they reach 80 or go under 80% HP, they will never proc, or 85 Strafe is saying, they will not proc the orb, and then you can just kind of power your way through cheesing the fight. Obviously, lightning was probably used here with burst and everything else. But let's say you're sadistic like us here tonight, and you wanted to actually play the game. HP silence to stop them from countering is another option there. But we'll get to the counters here in a second. Go ahead. Go ahead, Drusain.
Well, I just wanted to point out something that this stage has that the other stages don't. As far as Lufania versus whatever they had, Chaos and Early. And that Radiant Shade is really, really rough. And like, since I just completely disrespected Exdeath's Chaos, original Chaos with Porum, Selfie, and Exdeath, I was like, oh, well, what's going to stop me here? And what happens is, holy shit, Radiant Shade did, like, first of all, in the Chaos, only one enemy could do it. Yeah. And it was a little bit of HP damage. But now what they do is, before you can even set up, on their second, they do a little bit of a brave attack, and then their second turn is going to be this massive, massive AoE HP attack that will just kill you, because they're both going to double tap and just kill you. And it's really, really weird. I can't believe that they did this. I do know why they did it, though. It's to sell Wool's LD.
Yeah.
Because, Wool is really good at this stage. So
yeah, and I'll get to that in a second. So you have the Radiant Shade, you have the orb that needs the HP poison, and you have the counter mode. So one of them at a time goes into this counter mode. If you break them, they kill you, like wipe your debuffs and you die. And so I mean there's a lot going on in this fight, and the three characters who are really this fight more probably than any other Lost Chapter was designed for these three characters. Firion, Exdeath, Warrior of Light. Warrior of Light's LD helps with the Radiant Shade. Exdeath obviously helps with the orb and doesn't break. Firion's off-turn damage can break them without countering, and of course he does a lot of single target damage, so he's not doing area of effect damage except his LD, so he's not killing you accidentally, although I pressed his LD several times by accident and ended up dying the first few times I ran it. So you can, I mean, that's the team I used without their burst weapons. Obviously, if you have a burst weapon, it will be easier, whether it's Warrior Light or Firion. But that's the team I used. I used Exdeath. I used Firion. They're all Synergy, Warrior of Light. And they each dealt with the mechanics. You really had to pay attention. It took me several resets, but I was able to do it fine. The majority of folks didn't play the mechanics and just cheese through it, and that's okay. I think Arrow maybe wanted to say a little bit more about that, because I know she was frustrated with this mechanically.
it is the dumbest thing mechanically. Look, I don't have a problem with them trying to make it. The orb's not the problem. The orb's not an issue. I'm not even going to talk about the orb because you bring anybody who has poisonous sap, and that's fine. But the thing that gets me with the design sometimes for this game is that they absolutely encourage you not to let the boss play. This happens anytime they overtune the fight. They seem to find a way to basically cheese the fight, or like there's something mechanically that prevents something from happening so that you can cheese the fight and never let the boss play. So if you're overtuning the fight that badly to sell a character, maybe it's time to go back to the drawing board just a little bit and maybe balance it out so characters can beat it, right? Like, you actually let the boss play. Maybe nerf the stuff that lets everybody cheese it and not let the boss play. You can't tell me this is good game design because it's bad. It's terrible. It's stupid. And I think they need to address it. Thankfully, they are going to address it, but it hasn't happened yet. So that's number one. I know it sounds like I'm salty, but no, I think it's just bad design. Like, even ignoring the fact this is a gacha game and everything, it's bad design. It's bad game design 101 here. All right, so number two, I'm going to complain about basic radiate attack spam. Basic radiate attack spam. So that thing, okay, so I debuffed the boss like a ton, okay? And that attack still was hitting for 9,999 when it was doing the Brave attack. So you have a boss who not only has Brave regen on itself, that's an invisible buff, by the way, at certain thresholds. Number two, it's hitting you. And they also gain Brave before they hit you with Radiate. So it's like, okay, good luck living that unless you have some sort of damage mitigation. Warrior of Light, yes, he's amazing here. But guess what, guys? His LD's not on this banner. So I hope you pulled it last month. It's like, okay. So I do want to point out I did beat this fight. So just before you guys think I didn't, I did. And I'll get to the team I beat it with. But let me keep ranting here. I want to point out another thing. So there are points where they go into that break aura thing where the break counter aura, and when that's up, that's fine, that's cool. I'll target the other one and I'll lower the Brave of the other, the target with the break counter just enough so that it doesn't do piercing spear. Okay, cool. I lowered it under 10,000 Brave. Oh, the invisible eye Brave regen buff triggered. Oh, now it's back over 10,000 Brave. So now it's going to use piercing spear plus. I didn't have Brave or damage mitigation up. I'm dead. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's like trying to deal. There's just too many mechanics going against you to want to deal with this boss. But then on top of that, it's just silly that they instead would, if you don't bring the synergy team, screw you. And the only reason I almost can forgive this is because it's permanent content. But then it's like, okay, cool. But why did the turn count have to also be 70 turns? I saw a lot of great teams, but then that 70 turn count would freaking screw you over. Why couldn't they have at least made it 75? Or even 80? It would have been far more tolerable. So those are the main things I have an issue with. And it was very frustrating to deal with this fight. I finally freaking sat down and did it with Therian, Beatrix, and Kimari, and I had to use the burst, and I had to get my Sephiroth friend killed in the freaking process, and barely made the HP requirement because of it. It's a freaking stupid fight, poorly designed, and honestly, I hated the chaos last year, but I really hated the Lufania design because of the problems here. And it's like, if you had just maybe fixed a couple of little things here and there, this fight would have been tolerable, difficult, but tolerable. And I just can't believe they tried so hard to sell Exdeath this way. And it's like, I don't want Exdeath now because I hate him and his stupid fight.
I can tell you why I think I already told you, but why the turn count is so low. Because they designed this so that let's forget that Exdeath and Furion's debuff is 6 turns for each one. They wanted to make sure that you could have complete uptime. When stages get to be like 90 turns and you're trying to put Exdeath or Furion in there, you're going to start noticing, you can't have full uptime in there. That's something I didn't really think about, huh? So that's why they made it so low.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, again, there are a lot of different ways to come at this particular fight. But if you really do want to play the mechanics, it can be a little frustrating. There's just a lot of different things to juggle, and some of it's a little bit RNG. So, good luck. You can go on, of course, Macnol, DissidiaFFOO.com. Our friend Macnol, DissidiaFFOO.com does have the call to arms. There's a lot of different options. I think, as someone said earlier, someone was able to do a lightning solo with that. Was that one of the folks we know? Let me look real quick. Theologica, who's on tonight, and Scarlet Cleric both did lightning solos. So I hate lightning. Oh, that one BT that I don't have, who solos everything. So I mean, I don't know how easy that is. It's probably not the easiest thing to do, but there are a lot of different options. People were talking about Bosch. People were talking about Edward. Obviously Arrow and I mean, we did the hard way to do it, but I really wanted to see the mechanics play out and also see what Exdeath did there. So, all right. I never tried, but I imagine if you can get a team that can do massive max brave down crap, you can probably do okay, but I never really looked into it. I was going to say, is there some initial brave or max brave? Usually somebody like pulls out pain or something for this to try to pull off some kind of weird shenanigans, but I didn't see. 8 is really good on this too, isn't it? Yeah, 8's really good on this one as well. Lots of people using 8, so not to solo, but to deal with some of that damage, that big damage. He can just take out. So very good there as well.
I guess the damage would be not specifically to break, just to knock it down a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, he can just ignore the attacks, basically, evade the attacks. I think is.
I see.
Yeah. So they go to attack him and they waste all their brave, basically.
But what about the all attack?
I don't know. I didn't use him.
Okay.
I have to go back and look.
Bring Beatrix. I don't know, man. Kamari works. You can True Nova against everything these bosses do.
I'm just trying to see some 8 clears. Warrior of Light, Charlotta, Gabranth, Furion. Then not a lot of other damage mitigation with 8. So, I did not bring him. So, all right. Well, again, if you're having trouble with that, jump on our Discord, and there's all kinds of wonderful people that will be interested in helping you find a team that will work for you.
I mean, I feel bad about it because I brought the same team, Mark. I brought Wool, Exdeath, and Furion, and I would say that it was the easiest Lufania I've done because I brought the characters they wanted.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, I mean, obviously it was designed for those, and they did their job well. Obviously, a little bit easier if you have one of the bursts, but yeah, I mean, you once you figured it out, it was doable with those 3 definitely, and they all had synergy and did their job well. Well, we have one more event to discuss tonight, and that is a new type of content for the global community, and that's called Boss Rush, and we have Boss Rush number 1, Soaring Flames. Now, with Boss Rush, so if you're not familiar, we are only now, from this point on, we are getting 1 new character a month. So Boss Rush and some other content are going to replace kind of the second character. So this month, instead of getting a new character, we have a Boss Rush event, and we get a new LD, and that new LD is for Dark Knight Cecil, who also gets a rework and his level 80. So just to give you an overview on Dark Knight Cecil, he is a physical attacker who does melee and ranged mixed damage, who does on-demand launches with Party Brave Battery. He also imperils the Dark Element and does Dark Element attacks. Dark Knight Cecil does damage to himself to empower his attacks, a classic Dark Knight mechanic from the Final Fantasy series. He has been a staple in the game since the very beginning. I remember those early co-ops with 3 Dark Knight Cecils, and playing co-op again with 3 Dark Knight Cecils just brings me back to those early days. And his update just brings him into the Lufania era. His rework is very simple. Skill 1 has increased brave hits. Skill 2 has increased brave hits and now does splash damage. Fairly simple, but it does help, especially on skill 2. His level 80 call ability is skill 2, which offers an on-demand launch, just like Cloud. So an opportunity for another launch as a call, which is always nice. And his LD gives him really the different things that he needed. Soul Eater is the ability. It consumes 60% of your health. So as soon as you press the LD, it brings you under 50% of your health, so it empowers the rest of his abilities, making skill 1 and skill 2 the plus variants. And it does a single target attack with splash damage, delays all enemies 1 turn, so it helps set up your next attack, which is a launch. It is an instant turn, so you press LD. If you do first turn LD, for example, you immediately go under 50% HP. You get another turn and you can immediately go into a launch. You've set up your launch because you've broken potentially and then delayed the enemies. And so it basically does everything he wants to do. It also refreshes his frame buffs, so that helps. It also imperils Dark, so that helps. And provides a new debuff, New Moon Mysteries, which saps enemies and increases HP damage taken. So now enemies are taking additional HP damage because of Dark Knight Cecil's debuff. So he really does get the help he needs. I'm not sure in terms of longevity, he is going to see a ton of play because he does really work well in this environment, which is come in, hit hard, and get out of there. I mean, that's really what Boss Rush is all about. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But so I know people did use him, especially in launch teams moving forward. But again, we're right before LD board era, so there's going to be other characters who are going to get more powerful, including Kais is getting his LD and LD boards pretty soon. Cloud has a burst weapon, so Ramza launches right in his LD weapon, I believe, or enables it, something like that. I haven't looked that far ahead, but yeah, he gets what he needs. I did not get his LD, not for lack of trying, but you can watch my pull video if you haven't. So
sorry, Mark, I saw how that went.
It was yeah. Well, and if anyone had a seizure or has epilepsy, don't watch it. So speeding up the 230 ticket string without any gold orbs to 750% speed may have given someone seizures, epilepsy, may be triggered by that, like that episode of Pokemon, the Polygon episode. So please, yes, thank you, Strafe. Hopefully hopefully all your polls went good. But Arrow, any thoughts on Dark Knight Cecil?
Yeah, he seems well now. He is another one of those high risk, high reward characters that's always been his little jam. He's like the original character who started that whole trend. And if you know how to play around this character and you are willing to put in the effort to deal with some of his his health issues and all that, and kind of maintaining his HP in a careful manner, he really does pay off. The LB being instant turn rate is amazing. The rework, it added a bunch of damage to him. I think it added a couple more brave hits to his kit. All those things are wonderful. It's really interesting, and it gives us a new HP damage boost character. So if you've missed out on Kurosame and Shalata, this is a new opportunity for you to get that kind of character added to your roster. And on top of that, have somebody who can launch consistently throughout the fight, because Dark Cannon's EX Plus does restore a skill use to both skills every time it is used. Awesome. You can constantly be spamming with him, and it's really cool and unique.
Yeah, CSAM is reminding us that his, he does do damage to himself, and so he is at risk, but his last stand triggers at 20% of his health, so he does last stand a lot better than a lot of other characters. So he will stay at 1 HP if he is at over 20%. Yeah. Drew, any thoughts on Dark Knight Cecil?
So I did pull him. there was I didn't quite realize that he had the 20% party party debuff on HP, extra HP. I didn't realize he had that. I thought that was just for himself. So that's really good. I've decided I'm just going to go for the airline express stupid cheese. So that's why I decided to also pity Cloud. He was my first pity, and I'm just going to go with that. Cecil, I had Cecil from before. I didn't use him that much because this was also the time when I was loving Exdeath a lot. it was that same era. But he has been my artifact farmer since he got his realization, and he's doing really good. I haven't tried him out of synergy yet. Obviously, he's really, really good at the boss rush, but either way, a character that is melee and is throwing out party max HP buff, or sorry, what I'm trying to say is extra HP damage is quite unique, because the only ones we have is Charlotta and what's his face, Kursame, who I would suggest are supports. So having a damager with it is also quite unique and fun to have.
Yeah, and the nice thing, his EX does refresh ability uses, so he does have longevity. So don't get me wrong there. He's not going to run out, but I do feel like he is really good in this environment of like burst damage. Kind of get in there and do a lot of damage really fast. So let's talk a little bit about Boss Rush. This is a new type of content. It comes in 3 different difficulties: easy, normal, and hard mode, I believe. It doesn't really, they don't call them Chaos, Cosmos, whatever. There is a co-op, just to briefly mention that. It is a level 70 co-op, and then after you beat the Cosmos version or the regular version of Boss Rush, it does unlock that. Boss Rush allows you to bring multiple teams into a fight. Now, this is not like, you have 3 or 4 teams and you swap them in. You start the fight with a timer, and I think it's 50 count for the hard difficulty. Every time you take an action, whether it's a C65, whether it's a call ability, whether it's a regular HP attack, whatever, that ticks down your overhead timer. It looks kind of like a target in the side of the screen. When you get down to 0, that team is done, and you have the option to bring another team in. Now, to beat the content, I think you can bring up to 5 teams. But for the hardest difficulty, and I already saw things on Facebook where, this was so easy, and they showed 3 teams. Well, to get all of the rewards, including your burst token and your Lufania armor, because there's no challenge quest for this type or anything, right? You need to only use 2 teams on the hard mode. So you basically have you have 100 actions over the course of 2 teams, over the course of 3 waves to beat the content. The first wave is the Prominence Bomb, so the big mother bomb with the 2 little bombs, really tanky. If you don't kill it in a certain time, it will explode and kill you. No Lufania Orb. The second is the 2 Vane horses that get the extra turns, do the extra damage, speed themselves up. They have a Lufania Orb that is increased by launches. And that orb is fair. Is that the orb that's the fairly low number, or is the dark damage orb the low number? One of them's fairly low.
It's easy to get back up. It's something like you start with 15 and you get 8. Like 10 if you do a launch or something like that.
Like a lot. It's like 10.
Oh, Yoshi Pasta says, for hard mode, if a boss is paralyzed and your timer is down at 0, you can still keep going. Interesting. I did not try that. Burst and summon phases do not take part of that. The last wave is a Bahamut type, the one that regens. So it goes down to 0 and then does a big AoE attack and then regens Kuraga's its full HP. So there are 3 waves. All of the characters who are on the banner, so Furion, Dark Knight Cecil, Kane, Exdeath, and Leon, they are all synergy. Now, the nice thing is we got something that Japan did not get this time around, which they got later. They have super synergy. So as long as you have one of them on your team, everyone else, regardless of their synergy or not, will get synergy stats. So if you have Furion on team 1 with Gladio and Gao get synergy stats. It's also nice to know that you can use characters' calls and use the characters in the next team. You also get a burst phase and a summon phase for every fight. And they do not jump up the count or tick down the count. So you get 2. So for 2 teams, you get 2 summon phases, 2 burst phases. If you have 2 burst weapons, obviously, you don't get to bring the same characters. You do have to bring different characters for each team. It does obviously skew towards having bursts because it's easier with burst weapons because that's a free phase. And it does skew towards synergy because that gives all of your characters synergy. That being said, Macnol has done wonderful work on the Call to Arms. The Call to Arms is up for this event. And there have been a few people who have done it without any synergy. This is really tuned towards off-turn damage. So Furion, Exdeath have off-turn damage. They're very excellent. Gao, Gladio have off-turn damage. If you give them synergy, they're doing even more damage. But there are several people who did do non-synergy runs. They did, however, use burst weapons. So I'm not sure that we have anybody to this point who has not used no synergy or no burst. Would love to see someone try that and work on that. I'm sure someone will get it done. But to make sure that it is possible. For me, I used Furion, Exdeath, and Gladio as my first team. They were able to get into... They may have gotten into the 3rd wave. Obviously, they're all doing off-turn damage. Furion's doing off-turn damage. Exdeath is doing off-turn damage. They're debuffs because, again, as Drusain said, they have short debuffs. This is all about pressing skills, spamming LDs, not using your C65s, using your burst, using your summon as soon as you can. And Gladio, all his LD up for the majority of the fights. So they were able to get to the 3rd wave just by themselves. And then I did not get Dark Knight Cecil's LD. But I brought him for synergy stats. So I brought Dark Knight Cecil EX only, Cloud, and Kais, and I was able to kill Wave 3, I think, before it acted, just by spamming various different launch mechanics and burst and summon. So that was my take. I really like it. I know our friend Black Nero, who did a video on this with 40 the Broadway Say, and they did a wonderful collab, so you can check that out on 40's channel. This is all about going in, hitting hard, creating some interesting teams, and having a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It's pretty quick content. If you are struggling with it, let us know. Again, there's a lot of options on the Call to Arms, DissidiaFFOO.com. Arrow, what do you think of this boss rush content, and how did you approach it?
I enjoy boss rush quite a lot. I like that the qual came because I feel like it opened up a lot of team potentialities for people that would otherwise have probably hated this first boss rush because it only allows for 2 teams. Thankfully, future ones will allow for you to get all rewards in 3 teams. I think they have an extra wave, though, so just something to keep in mind. Yeah. I really enjoy concocting the team thing. I think that's really fun, trying to think, okay, I need to deal with this orb here, or how can I, beat this really fast before I have to even worry about the orb, things like that. I really enjoy that they encourage a lot of different ways of doing damage, like getting extra damage in, such as with counters, with traps, with launches, those follow-up characters like Noctis or even Machina and things like that. And of course, you can also prize characters that mitigate brave damage taken and HP damage taken, because that allows you to more safely just keep spamming buttons, like without having to ever hit that brave plus button. Hopefully you don't have to when you're doing boss rush. But anyway, so I did beat boss rush on yesterday, no problem, with Firion, Kimari, and Gao in my first team. And they got to wave 3 right at the start of wave 3. They got like 1 turn left. And then my second team was Leon, Vivi, and Rude, just to kind of deal with the boss mechanics. And Leon absolutely cheeses the crap out of the third wave if you are not like, preventing the boss from ever getting turns. If you let the boss actually have turns, Leon just absolutely poops all over that wave. It's funny. But I had a lot of fun. I got to lead with 2 FF2 characters and get synergy stats. That's cool. It's actually so I'm sure there'll be other chances for people to get to play some of their faves and boost their whole team and future boss rushes. And I think that's super awesome.
Yeah, there is a unique thing about the synergy bias on this particular event. All 5 of the characters are viable, especially if you pair them with other more powerful characters to give them boosted stats. But, I've seen, Leon obviously doesn't have an LD. Kane does not have an LD. I've seen Firion without LD or burst. I've seen Exdeath without LD, although that's probably one of the more trickier ones to use without an LD. But definitely Leon and Kane and Dark Knight Cecil really do their job boosting the party and providing, the Lufania orb niche there. So even though, yes, there's synergy bias, it's not necessarily yet synergy bias towards burst weapons or LDs, which is nice. Drew, how did you approach this, and what do you think about boss rush in general?
I actually used the same team you did, Mark. I didn't get to the 3rd phase, but I also quit a little earlier. And incidentally, if you haven't done this yet, if you haven't done the boss rush yet, make sure not to accidentally quit when you're trying to go to your next party. Yeah, I made that mistake. It's one of those things that you make the mistake once and then you don't do it ever that again. Yeah, press the button that says go to the next team, not quit out to continue. So, that said, I used the same team, Gladio, Exdeath, and Firion. That got me to like 20% on both of them. And excuse me. And I had 5 turns left to go, but I just decided to switch to the other party. Used Cloud, Kais, and Cecil to just do the rest of it. Yeah. And when you have that, it's not too hard. I'm a little conflicted on boss rush because you have to build, like, I understand doing a Lufania and building one character to deal with it. I don't really like the idea of doing a boss rush where they may have like multiple Lufania orbs that you have to deal with for just one Lufania armor. It worked fine here. I would prefer if boss rushes did not have synergy, reduced the HPs and stats, and let you have a lot more creativity for the characters you could bring. But since they're not doing that, then I just have to pull for the characters that are good for the boss rush.
If I recall correctly, in my JP conversations, of course, in the JP version of the game, they did not have the super synergy. So synergy did not cross over to other characters, non-boosted characters. So that was tough. And this is only 2 teams, whereas I think the next iteration of next boss rush, you get 3 teams. And then they got so if I'm recalling right, the second and third boss rush, I think the general opinion was they were a little easier than this boss rush. And then maybe the 4th one is a little bit more challenging, but that may just have to do with who's on the banners and without I'd have to pull up pull up my link to see. But yeah, I was kind of worried about the same thing in terms of, I need to have 2 decent synergy characters to make these boss ruts happen. The next one will be next month with Ultimecia. So Ultimecia, Hope, Cloud of Darkness, and Shadow are going to be synergy on that with Jack. So yeah, that's on the Ultimecia.
Yeah, I am aware that they didn't originally start with synergy. And also, yeah, I remember now that they did change it so the best rewards was in 3 parties instead of just 2. But I think they also have 4 waves now at this point.
Yeah.
And also start with an orb. I don't know. But that said,
go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
No, I was going to say, looking ahead, Boss Rush 3 comes out with Y'shtola. So, and then the 4 is Bartz and Tifa, and 5 is Tidus and Leon and Jack. So, I would say, Y'shtola, the Y'shtola Waka banner sounds like the harder one.
Yeah, probably. The other ones definitely have a lot of characters that are high priority to pick up.
Yeah, everybody's pulling on Tifa, so.
Yeah, so I don't know. I do enjoy the idea that you can spam pretty much. You don't have to put that much strategy into it. The enemies, at least in this case, were pretty easy, but we also had synergy bias where they didn't. So that's a weird perception. I don't know. It remains to be seen. I mean, it depends on how much you can pull a month. Still, really, we have the foresight to know what orbs are coming up, and they don't in JP. So
CSDX, according to my notes, the next boss rush would be Ultimecia, and I think JP had the synergy at that boss rush, maybe not. And then the next month is Transcendence, which has burst synergy. So Transcendence has you get synergy if you bring a character with a burst weapon, I believe is how that works. So we'll talk more about Transcendence then, because I'm still a little confused on it myself.
I believe the second one has ulti and also has Hope and Pinello, so a lot of characters that are really good at that time.
He's coming back. He'll be pretty good because he has those follow-ups with his doggo. Yeah. I just want to point out that thank goodness for Boss Rush being here, because after these freaking past 2 lost chapters in Zande Lufania, I'm done. I'm tired of freaking crazy Lufanias that just out of nowhere up and kill you constantly. Hopefully, next month will be just a little more tolerable. And I'm glad Boss Rush was here to be sort of like the stress reliever almost for me. I don't know how other people feel, but for me, it was the stress reliever. Thank God for it.
Yeah, it went pretty quick. I mean, to be honest, of course, I had synergy, and synergy bursts, so that's how it goes.
Yeah, it was fast for me. Energy bias, but also it's nice to not have to do 3 cutscenes of 5 stages going up into the level 70, et cetera, et cetera. It's nice to just have a couple stages, huh?
I'll do something else this weekend besides play DFFOO. There is a co-op, so do your co-op, and there's stuff in the shop, but a few 10 or so co-ops. Pay attention to, however, your chocobo boards, because I realized I still have most of the things in my chocobo board undone because of that, because the content's been a little different. So they may not all be as simple as just do the events and get the chocobo boards done. So make sure you're doing your chocobo boards. Just wanted to talk a few minutes about next month. This Monday is going to be likely, we believe, the Squex mobile stream, Monday the 25th, usually about 3:30 my time, Central Standard Time, where we hope to learn about the 3rd anniversary campaign and the next GL First LD. So, yeah. Arrow, any thoughts about what we might see in terms of 3rd anniversary or on that LD?
I'm hoping they'll reset the co-op so we can get the 4K gens or whatever again. I always love that when they do that every year. So I'm hoping they will again do it next year or this coming anniversary. Global LD, come on, please be ready at our rim, man. That would make my day. I will be so hyped to pull all the way to 75K for that. So, or Gilgamesh even. That was my 3rd choice actually on the contest banner. That would be a hype, pretty fun unit, I'm sure, even if he did not receive a rework. Otherwise, surprise me, Squex. I love surprises in anything. So fun surprises would be very welcome.
Well, you can watch my my speculation video on YouTube. It is on there. A couple months ago I put that up, but we'll see. Drew, any thoughts about 3rd anniversary or that global first?
I haven't really thought too much about the global first. I hope it's someone that I would like to pick up. I guess Selfie would be nice since she hasn't been out yet. And yeah, so I guess that's the only one where I'd be like, oh, that would be nice to have since I'm already looking forward to that later. But otherwise, yeah, co-op reset would probably be good. There's probably going to be an Abyss with the character that's coming up. And we're probably going to get 2x artifact tokens again because they always time artifact tokens at the time when I also am trying to farm stamina for other stuff. Like they always make it very, very inconvenient to be using the 2x token time. So I'm sure that they'll do it during the divine summon board.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, it will always be at the most inconvenient time whatsoever. Yeah, like not over this next like 6 days where there's nothing to do when we could be farming artifact tokens. No, it will be during divine boards when we need to actually be doing
exactly.
Yeah, I agree, Seth. World of Illusion double artifact tokens should be permanent. Yeah, we should just not have to grind artifacts at all. They should just remove that part of the game. No, I don't mind grinding artifacts.
They really shouldn't have. Well, okay, that would be going into my that there shouldn't be Gil anymore, but that's a thing.
Although Inkwelder never has Gil, I don't know how. I was thinking about this today as I was grinding artifacts. I always have like 10,000 of each orb. I'm always sitting at millions and millions of Gil, and I grind artifacts constantly.
Mino's trying to bait me, but I will at least just say, we're already starved by every other resource. There's no reason to have Gil except for grinding, but I'll leave that.
Why is Gil capped at 9 million? That's my question. Because like no other game, I think caps gold the way this game does. I'm serious. I can't think of another gacha that caps gold this way. They just let you have as much as you freaking want. So why is this game limited? Because then I wouldn't mind spamming some ×3 Gil books, CSDX, if they actually decided to raise the rate. I just pop ×2 Gil books every now and then and let Una auto farm for me. Thank goodness for Una auto farming.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll announce it on the anniversary.
Speaking of things that are completely useless, Gil and XP books right now are almost.
That is a good point.
Almost
that is a good point. If you don't know, EXP books for divine summons, unless they change it in global, which would be weird.
It'd be hilarious.
Would be you don't get any synergy bonuses out of that anymore. It's all the character. So bring the character for it.
My normal, unless the chocobo boards have me kill golden cactars, my normal Gil grinding is just doing co-op and selling, co-op tokens for more orbs and then selling orbs for Gil, because that gets you more Gil than anything. So it doesn't take much. So yeah, I pretty much only use, I have so many double times books and even triple books for XP and and Gil, and I use the item books constantly, but still I have tons of double item books as well. Oh, hey, so let's have a couple questions. I'll answer the first one, then we'll get on to real questions. Vince asked, this is from several weeks ago, last month actually, can you guys be specific in what way Mino is no longer a host given the frequency in which he is on the podcast? Does he not have to do prep work for it anymore? Correct. He didn't want to have to do any work. So he is no longer a host. So when he comes on, he can just pop on when he wants and say what he needs to, and be done. But, he did get that big promotion at In and Out, and so he's been working a lot more, and he has been streaming on off days for us and doing some other content, including his Let's Play Final Fantasy VI. And so you can watch those on our YouTube channel. I think I'm going to put part 6 out this week, so you can catch up with that. And also, they've been doing some Danganronpa and some other things, but he's still the people's host. You can believe whatever you want. So Shaded Mystic, a few years ago, FFBE. Oh, no, we already did this. No, maybe we didn't. Fan Fiesta events in real life where communities got together and they did drawings and raffles and presentations. How would the host feel if they did something similar to DFFOO post-COVID? Did we talk about this? So would you do a DFFOO get together? I think Black Cloud and Mino and Zeno talked about this. I think Zeno definitely would go to a DFFOO convention. It's not a very big game, so I don't know. We have talked about, Lids and I live pretty close together. So it would be fun to have kind of a DFFOO meetup, go get a beer and hang out, but not necessarily a convention. I don't know. What do you guys think about DFFOO convention kind of talk?
I mean, if it would be really helpful if the community, the actual, sorry, I was about to put Josh on the spot, but that's not really what I wanted to do. But if they want to do cons, they can set that up themselves. But if fans do it, that's cool. I wouldn't go right now, but sure. Anything that market the game, I think it's still a good game.
Yeah, they do have.
Lufania is weird, but the game's weird. They
do have a Squex in each region has an event coordinator. So they have a staff person that does event coordinations, and so they're at some of these big conventions. And Final Fantasy Dissidia Omnia has had booths at various gaming conventions. So I mean, you do see that, and so they had their little gotcha machine, so you can pull keychains out there. So yeah. Arrow, any thoughts on that?
I honestly at first misunderstood this question. I've read it before and I thought it was more like a fan contest. So maybe I thought they were talking drawing contests and there's some sort of maybe video contests, things like that. So things to kind of share your fandom for the game. So cosplay, videos and drawings and things actual artistic drawings. I mean, I thought that's what it meant at first. So apologies for misreading the question. But I think if you were to have a convention, you've got to have those things too as a part of the experience. So that could be done in maybe a virtual sort of setup. If we were to if somebody was willing to set up for a virtual convention. I've seen those a lot on Facebook being advertised in my area, for conventions that were in person, but now they're done virtually. So you got to have some sort of fun way to share your love for the game. So you got to have that. I don't know what else I'd really add. I think if you were to have a convention, maybe having it for just this title would be a little small. So maybe include the other mobile FF games at the very least. Or maybe the new Final Fantasy that's been hyped up, number 16.
Yeah, I mean, now that 16's been announced, and they could do some sort. I know that they're not very happy, or not happy. They don't really want to do a lot of promotions they did the Dragon Quest kind of thing, but they're kind of not into doing crossovers. But they can try to market and do a little bit of nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and try to get FF16 a little bit on this game. But we'll see how that goes.
All right. Nuclear Shady asks, hello, everyone. I'm new to the game. I don't know much about it. What should I be doing right now? Well, you should go to TonberryTroupe.com and check out Teleute's Beginner's Guide. That has everything you need to know, or you can join our Discord, which you already have, Nuclear, and listen every week, and hopefully you'll get enough tips and tricks. But if you are brand new to the game, the wonderful resource that I believe Teleute, I've always been giving him the credit to it, spent a lot of time working on that wonderful Beginner's Guide. That really sets up what should you do, how should you approach the game as a new player. That's all you need to know. So that's what you do. You go read that, and that's what I would suggest for everybody. Go read. Do not start playing the game. Do not start pulling until, the game is 3 years old. It's been around. So unless you just want to pick it up casually, go read. Spend 10 minutes reading the Beginner's Guide. You're going to know exactly what to do, and you're going to be off to a great start. Then you can come on Discord, ask any other questions you have about specific things, and then follow us every week, and you know how. So Drusain asks, many of you have played other gachas, but I haven't, so which is good. Don't. I'm curious what you think the next reasonable step to the game would be once we're done with LD weapons and high guard armor plus. There's a new variation of the Lufania armor in Japan, which is confusing. So I don't even want to get into that. But so yeah, what's the next evolution of DFFOO gacha, Arrow? What do you think?
There's going to be mini bursts for every character. They're going to get 3-turn bursts that they'll get to do any sort of actions they want in. And that's just it. They don't have a burst like finisher. They'll just get to use any 3 skills for free in that that little mini burst. That's my guess.
Interesting. Yeah. So kind of a tiny burst phase would be an option. Drew, did you have any ideas? This was your question, but did you have any ideas about what you might think the next iteration of weapons, etc. would be?
It is my question, so it's weird for me to try to answer it. Yeah. But one thing I have been noticing on JP is that not all of them, but a lot of the EX weapons are not very prioritized anymore, which is weird because when I started, an EX weapon had the special animation, had the most damage you could possibly get out of the thing. So seeing that EX weapons just don't do too much except to refresh buffs, I think that's kind of lame, and I think they're going to have to do something to make EX weapons really big again. I was listening to 5 minutes of Mino's stream with Ink and BC, and the idea of changing things with the C65, the bloom tokens. Yeah. They might do something with that too. So I think between changing bloom tokens or changing EXs, they might. But as far as the gacha, none of that really changes the gacha unless they just add a new gacha thing. I don't know. I don't really know. Yeah, like I said, I enjoy this game. I don't really want to get myself involved in another one.
You don't. Yeah, you don't at all. For many different reasons. But you're probably not going to see an EX like an additional EX realization because the protagonists and antagonists have burst weapons, so people have been encouraged to sell their EX pluses. Now, LD is still not, you don't equip an LD, you equip the EX. So I could see a new tier of weapon which transforms the EX into a more useful skill or, does some additional kind of offers LD or EX realizations on top of an EX realization. So it would encourage you to, pull for the EX and now pull for another weapon that would not be a burst weapon. So I could see something like that. That would kind of act like EX extension boards, but would be a new weapon type, so that you would equip that weapon that would do better stats, and maybe would upgrade your C65 and your EX to more powerful versions of the skills instead of adding an additional skill, which they still could do. I mean, I think you still have one skill space left, right? With regular call and LD call, or do they take up 2 frames?
Well, if you have a burst, then that actually is the full. Yeah.
The full.
Which, incidentally, what they could do is just, if you have a burst character, they can just, instead of having the burst icon in the slots, they can just have the burst icon at like the top right, and then actually have that free slot on the page. But yeah, that's a good point, because you can't just sell, now that you can sell EX weapons, they can't just do something to change the EX. But you know what I'm talking about. Like some of the EX skills aren't really that good in JP, and that's kind of concerning to me.
I would assume, I think it's very safe to assume that towards the end of all of the characters getting their LDs, and also the main cast getting the main protags and antags getting their BTs, you will see a new tier of weapon. I mean, that's just that has to happen. There has to be a new type of thing to pull for.
See, but here's the thing about that is, now that they've killed off banners to make room for the LD, what are they going to do in order to put in another item into these banners?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In terms of, piling up weapons. It'd be interesting because Final Fantasy Record Keeper has so many, each character has so many different weapons. It would be interesting to see. You may get limited results for the lower tier weapons like the 15s and 35s and even EXs, and higher rates on LDs, and kind of replacing it. But, they could change how the banners look completely too. So, or they may start giving away free 35s or 315.
Yeah, I was about to point out that comment. I think that idea where they just take 15s out would be something. But yeah, anyway, I appreciate the extra time to talk about this, because it was my question, so I actually legitimately wanted an answer to it.
Final Asim asks, "Hey guys, how are you? I have a request regarding Final Fantasy lore. Do you think all these worlds are connected, and how exactly? Would you say they are all from the same world but different times and ages, or different worlds and realities that are still connected?" I think in terms of the quote-unquote canon of Final Fantasy, some Final Fantasy games are the same world. Most of the classic games, so 1 through 15, are different worlds. But Final Fantasy 12 and Tactics Advanced, they happen in the same world. Final Fantasy 13 has some crossovers with other games. There's some other worlds that kind of cross over. Dissidia is technically its own world that crosses in all of the worlds. So, if you're a comic book person like I am, you get, Type 0 has some crossover.
All the Crystal Chronicle games are connected in the same world, different time periods.
Different time periods, yeah.
Yes.
And also World of Final Fantasy, I guess.
But yeah, there's some suspension of disbelief in terms of the dimension hopping, but if you read comic books, Marvel and DC, there's how many thousands of Earths and how many different universes and parallel dimensions, and so are all these different worlds in a galaxy. If there was space travel, there is space travel in some of them. Could the Final Fantasy VIII crew travel through space to Final Fantasy VII? Yeah, I don't think that's been explored. I don't think the lore is that is that deep in terms of from game to game, or are they just different dimensions, or are they just all unrelated except for the ones that are related?
Nah, man. Everyone, we're gonna get to Final Fantasy 20 and find out that everyone was Sora or Xehanort.
Yeah, they were all all
in all seriousness, my thought has always been that every world that has a crystal is connected. So like I guess there must be some master crystal somewhere, or there was, and then they all split. And then you get all these FF worlds. Like each crystal decided to create its own world. I don't know.
They are all connected to the Dissidia world, or the Dissidia worlds, which are different. There have been different iterations of the Dissidia world.
The only one that doesn't technically have a crystal then is FF2. I'm pretty sure there's not in the same way we think of a crystal. I don't think there really was one. So I don't know what happened in that world. Maybe that's why they had all those problems with the Emperor. Maybe something happened to that crystal.
Nobody knows. But yeah, they are all connected to the Dissidia world. Even Final Fantasy World of Final Fantasy, which is connected to all the other worlds, is somehow connected to Dissidia. So we'll not talk about Sora, but interesting. They are obviously all connected because we have characters from all the games.
They can't possibly. Realistically, like I know we're fans and we want to see the stuff, but let's be real. It's not going to happen. And I wouldn't want it to happen. Could you imagine like trying to explain to someone who, grew up starting at Final Fantasy 15 and then like 16 has this massive backstory of all the fucking Final Fantasies up until now.
Falcom does it.
Could you imagine how stupid that would be? Just leave it at being.
Like there are companies that are very serious about their lore in this way, but I'm okay with Final Fantasy not being that. Falcom with its Trail series and with the Ys series has managed to pull it off. They have made it where the game's got a timeline history and is really well built, and you probably should at some point play all of the titles. There is like ideal orders, but Ys you don't have to play necessarily in any particular order, but if you play in the proper order, it kind of does build on itself and it's kind of nice. But Trails is pretty you gotta play it in their order. Good luck, you're gonna spoil yourself. But Final Fantasy, I'm okay with the whole idea of different dimensions to explain all the crystals, and like each crystal has its own rules for their dimension. I'm okay with that. That kind of keeps things easier, especially with as old as this series is, and they have not remade all the games the way Falcom has done.
Well, let's do one more question because all the other questions are from just the last week, so we can come back to them. But Hope asks, in Opera Omnia, which characters did you come to love and enjoy when initially you had not heard of, or you had not heard of them or didn't like them at first? So hero, villain, side character, arrow. Is there any character in this game that you like in this game that maybe you didn't care for in the other series?
Ooh, come back to me. I'll have to think on that one.
So I have two answers off the cuff. First of all, like I said, I haven't played FF5, but I'm really enjoying the stuff that they've done, and so I'm really excited to get to it. But also, and I don't think I've said this on the podcast, but I have mentioned it on Discord, is that this is like reminder that I didn't start day one on this game, so I still have a little bit of freshness on the early chapters. But there's a scene when you're getting Cypher for the first time, or at least meeting him for the first time, and he meets with Laguna, and Cypher's gushing all over Laguna, saying, "Oh yeah, I saw your movies. I completely defined my identity on your dumb movie with the dragon." And I'm like, "Oh yeah. That's why he's the way he is. I never really thought about that." And I don't know if that's something that was actually in the game. If it is, I don't remember.
I don't recall them interacting very much in the actual game. Yeah.
So if that's specific to this game, like that wasn't there before. Yeah, I'm hearing that was not in FF8. I appreciate that. That really, really gives me an appreciation for Cypher, or at least the idea of what Cypher is a little more than I thought before. So I appreciate that. That's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, if they, they have an opportunity to expand on, and that's my favorite part of the story aspect of this game. The story is whatever, but the interactions between characters who, even if they were in the same game, like Laguna and Cypher, did not interact really at all because of just the way the game was progressing. But who knew of each other, or definitely Cypher knew of Laguna, had that interaction, had that relationship. So. Interesting.
Yeah, no, I know they never met, but I don't know if there was anything in the game that showed that that was why he picked up the gunblade and decided to do stupid Sorcerer's Knight stupid shit. But I appreciate that.
Yeah, Mino shared a little where they talked about it, but yeah, they did not interact. But yeah, you find out that he did. He did do that.
Okay. So I thought it was original, but it's not. Still, I think that the scene there is fun. So,
Arrow, any thoughts?
Yes, Pain. I do not care about Pain in FF10-2. I think she's kind of boring, but I kind of liked her character arc in the arc chapter 2 where Yuna and her interacted. I got to appreciate Pain a little more. She was a little more in depth. I felt like she really came together as a character. I was like, man, if only she had shown more of this in her own game, I think I would have not minded her. But I like her a lot better in this game. So good. Hats off to them for writing Pain a little better.
Well, thank you. Thank you to all of you. Special shout out to our 2 gift subbers, Shalaster and Poppy. Appreciate that. Thank you to all who subbed tonight, all who are with us tonight. Thank you, Arrow. Arrowlie has her own YouTube channel lately. You can check that out. Drusain also has a YouTube channel and also has a great little article on Reddit about Exdeath, so you can check that out as well.
Sure.
Appreciate you being here, Drew. Always a pleasure.
I was very happy about coming to talk about Exdeath, and I thought this was a really fun stream. I really hope you can invite me back to Porum when she gets her LD.
Porum LD. We definitely put that on the calendar, and we will have you back on for Porum LD. Looking forward to that. And if you are listening and can talk online and are passionate about certain characters, we may consider you as well. So. Usually how this starts is people reach out to me and say, hey, I'm interested in being on the show. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's how we go. So special thanks. Of course, if you want to follow us, tccpodcast.com for all of our stuff. You can get all of our social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We have our own website. We're on YouTube. We're on all your favorite podcast apps. Do subscribe on all those things, and share some love if you want to support us. The best way to do that financially is on Twitch by becoming a sub as well. Special thanks to the Tonberry Troupe, Quetzalma, DissidiaFFOO.com, Macnol's website, Tonberry Troupe, Inkwelder, Dreamy, Teleute, Fane Novus. Special shout out to our TCC intern, PoteauCedar. Special thanks to Kreese and Mino, a part of the TCC crew. Special shout out to our mod team, Inkwelder, J.A, Jin Lee, Macnol, Quetz, and Strafe. Dreamy for that intro video. Jin Lee for our backgrounds and emoji. HaateXIII for the intro narration. Ryan is the Bomb 203 for that beautiful intro music. Special thanks to our collaborators, Black Nero, Black Cloud, Shara, Ricky Shrew, and a special shout out to our co-founder, Pierre, who is still alive, still talking, and still doing good. And so we chat occasionally. So this has been episode 136 of the Crystal Chronicles, recorded this January 21st, 2021. The 21st day of the 21st year of the 21st century. So we're glad that you spent it with us. Join our Discord, chat with us, and we'll catch you for the Squex community stream and for the podcast next week, where we will break down all of the exciting 3rd anniversary hype. do check out that contest, and we'll have a little bit of fun with that. Until next week, goodbye.